Welcome to Positive Talk Radio. Our goal is simple: to explore evolving ideas one conversation at a time. So, stay with us as right now we present. We've got a very unique and inspiring talent with us today. He's a great dude, and he does stuff in a really cool way that I have no idea how he does what he does. His name is Asher Laub, and he is with us. And where are you, Asher?
I'm out here in New York, Kevin.
Now, do you live in New York?
I do. I live here, born and bred. Although upstate is where I was actually born, but been in New York State my whole life.
So now are you in the Manhattan area now? Or
I was for about 10 years, and now we're out in Long Island, so a little bit east.
Very nice, and you have quite a resume about you. Tell our audience a little bit about what it is you do and your resume, because you've been in Carnegie Hall and you've been all over the place. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
I have a bit of an eclectic kind of experience professionally. As a musician, I wear a lot of different hats. So I'm first and foremost, electric violinist, composer, producer, and live performer. I own an entertainment group called Fiddler's Dream Productions. And I started off pretty young, at the age of 2 and a half, actually 2 and change on the violin. And that sort of started off my career, if you will. And so what I'm doing today is playing professionally, do about 200 events a year, live events, and I'm a producer and work pretty hard in the studio where I'm at right now talking to you. And that's my passion. That's what I love to do. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Well, congratulations, and I'm glad you're here and following your passion. What I'd like to do real quick is to go ahead and play this. I've got a little tape of you playing, because people need to see how a unique style of player you are, and then we'll talk about your style and where it came from and all that kind of stuff. And so again, we're talking with Asher Laub, and we'll be right back. We're going to play this on. If it doesn't work, it's not my fault. That, sir, is really, really impressive. How did you learn how to do all that?
The violin part, I can't even call it a talent because it's just something I've been doing my whole life, and I was carefully trained over many, many years. And then gymnastics came along late middle school. So I had a number of years to kind of learn how to jump on my hands, do flips, that type of stuff. And then I kind of merged the two later on when I moved into the professional realm of getting paid to do events, live events, and working with breakdancers. I learned how to incorporate, with some of their help, the violin and the dancing and the movements. So that's pretty much how it happened.
That's really incredible. That is really something. Now, you have played in a bunch of different venues. Tell us where you've played.
I mean, I've done probably about 2,000 plus events since 2001, across the country and in parts of Europe, the Middle East. So, but I would say of the more notable venues that I've played are Madison Square Garden, Carnegie Hall, Lincoln Center, Master Theater, a bunch of those, Jacob Javitz Center, some basically major, well-known venues, and I'm grateful to have had those experiences. And but it's definitely top of my list in terms of definitely on the bucket list, if you will. But I've also had the opportunity to perform on PBS a few times, so that's been pretty cool. But there's nothing quite as rewarding as playing for fans from home here on Long Island. So I just want to mention that.
Long Island I have not been there yet. It's on my bucket list. I need to go.
I mean, on a live stream on Facebook. So.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. And how can people find that?
So facebook.com/AsherLaub Music. I go live weekly. So typically Wednesdays, Thursdays or so in the evening, Eastern Standard Time, around 8 to 9 o'clock. And try to connect with fans, different parts of the country and in Europe as often as I can via the live streams.
Now, what did you do with CNN? What were you talking? Were you talking politics?
Well, there's just been a number of, there's been years of just press on music releases that I've done over the years. So, I've done a lot of interviews. I don't think I did an interview on CNN. I think it was written up about in an article on CNN. The New York Post. A number of these writers have attended my shows, my performances, so they've written about me.
Well, that's really cool. And you're also a producer, and you're a songwriter, and you do all of those things. What are you working on now? Is this your home studio?
Yeah, this is my home studio. It's just about the amount of space that I need. I can't fit a whole orchestra to record here, but I probably get squashed in. But a lot of what I'm doing here is me. So I'm recording violin through this mic, actually. And I'm doing a lot of production via the software on my computer. And then I work remotely with a lot of artists, different parts of the country and also in Europe. So that's what I'm doing here in this space. And also I live stream here also.
Cool. Now, there's a lot of people that might want to do this, of what you're doing. Where did your talent come from? Is it generational? Did it come from your parents and grandparents, or are you just started picked it up when you were 3 and can't put it down?
So, my Aunt Sheila was probably the ultimate inspiration, I guess, catalyst for me learning the violin, and same with my oldest brother, because she's in the Boston Symphony. So there's a little bit of blood there. But my parents played instruments, ukulele, violin, but they weren't professional musicians. But they kind of set all of us, myself and 3 other siblings, up to be professional musicians without the intention of us actually earning a living in it, ironically. So they just kind of wanted to give us the skills. I don't know if it was about resume or brain development, whatever. I'm really the only one who made it a full-time career. So I can't even say again that I don't give myself credit for having a talent. People call it a talent. I see it more as just practice. Like anybody can achieve whatever to a certain degree if they just through enough repetition, and we're talking thousands and thousands of hours of just playing etudes and scales and arpeggios and just learning the fingering by heart and just making it a part of my internal mechanism of thinking since a very early age. So when you do that, I think anybody could be a good musician.
Oh, I disagree with that. I think you're selling yourself way too short, because first of all, to be a professional musician and a violinist and is able to make money, and to be a soloist and to do all the things that you're doing, takes a great deal of talent and stick-to-itiveness and stuff. I mean, if you were playing since you were 3, it must have been that you didn't have anybody looking over your shoulder saying, "Now, Asher, before you go out and play, you're going to have to play a half hour of violin."
Well, my parents were paying for me to get private professional lessons.
Oh,
so
okay.
I literally, I can't take credit for just being this baby Mozart. Although I'm assuming Mozart and Bach also had private lessons. I may be wrong, but I definitely had guidance, and I had love and support. Now, the self-driven part came later on when in the professional realm. So I was never taught to improvise. I was never taught to dance and play. I was never taught to do, to produce. So that I give myself a little more credit for, but the groundwork was laid out at a very early age. So touche. Had to say that.
Of course.
But it's very nice of you. It's very nice of you.
Well, I look at it. See, I played the guitar when I was a kid, and it was one of those things where if I didn't play enough, my mom eventually pulled the lessons because I wanted to go out and play ball rather than play guitar and stuff. So it is there. A lot of us have taken lessons. Not all of us have had the passion, which is really what I like to talk about. Is there's something different about you because of the passion that you have driven yourself with for a very long time and continue to do it. And now I would consider well, let me ask you, do you consider what you're doing like performance art?
Why not? Sure. I wouldn't. I don't know how else to really describe it. It's just
I don't either.
So I'm gonna have to go with your description. I mean, it's art. It's performance art for sure.
Well, it's different. It's different than you being like first violin or second violin in an orchestra when you're in a pit. You're putting yourself out there in a very unique way.
Yeah, in a pretty risky way too. Taking all sorts of risks with music, but it's been my drive to just sort of do things a bit different because, partially because of a lot of my past, a lot of my history that sort of led me to take these risks and to just do things in a manner that very few other people are really willing to do or maybe are capable of doing. So, and I could probably blame that on trauma to a certain degree, which I think drives a lot of people to kind of do things that they wouldn't ordinarily do. But also just the realization that, I'd like to kind of trying to, what's the word? Charter my own path, my own course, just try to present myself in a unique way possible and show the world that I am uniquely myself and I have a different kind of message to relay to the world. And I don't really fit into this cookie cutter type of setting in any capacity. I've never fit in, since I was a kid. So this is just one more example.
One of the things that I always like to ask people that have done things of note, like you have done, I've talked to people that have walked the red carpet, as an example. What's it like to walk the red carpet? What's it like to get an award in an award show? What's it like to be center stage in Carnegie Hall or in Madison Square Garden, which is both of them are world-renowned venues?
Well, to be honest, it's overwhelming. It's a little scary, and that's coming from somebody who was born on stage. We're talking, age 3, age 4. I was doing Suzuki performances along with my peers in front of an audience, literally on a monthly basis, sometimes bi-monthly, up until the end of high school. So, I did about maybe 500 to 700 some odd performances until I ended up in Madison Square Garden, at the very least. And none of those performances, I don't, when I look back at them, I don't remember feeling heart palpitations. But when I was in Madison Square Garden and the videos are all there, they're pointing at you, and there's like thousands of people in the crowd, it's a little overwhelming. Yeah. Can't lie about that. If I were to do like 5 or 6 or 7 more times, probably get used to it, but definitely not the first time.
I don't know that you'd ever get used to it, because you're always concerned about that particular performance and you want to make sure it's as good as it can be. And isn't it true that if without just a little bit of nervousness, you're not going to be at your best? I've heard that before.
Yeah, and I probably wasn't exactly because of that. I don't know if people noticed, because there's just, you got lights going on and big orchestra, but definitely grateful for the experience, and was definitely nervous. And I wouldn't blame anybody for being nervous in that situation.
Well, the really cool thing is that those people came and paid to see you. So they were in your corner from the beginning. They wanted to make sure that you did well, and they were rooting for you to do well, and stuff like that. What's it like to get I don't know, 15 or 20,000 people standing and applauding you at the same time?
So it's kind of it's a bit what's the word? It's a bit of it has a somewhat of an addictive component to, like,
Sure.
get this sort of a high, like, oh, I want to do this tomorrow, and I want to do it next week too. It's like, oh, no, you're not Billy Joel, playing the Garden every night. But yeah, I can't lie. It's an amazing feeling. And the trick is really getting off of that high and remaining grounded after the fact. Because these highs, they come throughout the year for me. And I have a family, and I have a lot of responsibilities, and I got a mortgage and God knows what else, other responsibilities. And I got to stay grounded. All these like rock stars out there, I don't really envy them, to be honest. The highs and then the crashes, that's just far from what I want to have associations with.
Well, now you're doing a lot of music, and you're putting out albums and stuff like that. What's your current project you're working on?
Oddly enough, multiple projects for multiple reasons, because I'm trying to, yeah.
Hard to believe.
Right. So where do I start? So my Neon Dreams album is about I'm going to say one song short of an album. And that's a completely original album. I have a covers album. I'm working on a second covers album. Just due to popular demand, people ask me, oh, can you cover this song? Cover that song? All right, fine, guys. I'll do it for you. I'll make a separate album. I'm not putting it into the Neon Dreams album. I've got to separate them because of the royalties and everything. And I'm also working on, so that's the most important thing. I'm also working on a classical album, which is kind of a different animal. We're talking full symphonies, like 30, 40 channels, instruments, brass, winds, percussion, strings. That's a different animal than the electronic classical vibe that's in the Neon Dreams album. And I'm going to say that sort of evolved recently. Like, I only started pumping out full symphonies in the last year or so. Independently, I'm saying, independent of other producers.
What made that transition for you?
Because I guess I wasn't happy with a lot of the different elements that some of the producers I was working with were creating. And when I was asking for certain changes, those changes didn't really come to fruition in the way that I envisioned them. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this myself. I'm just going to do it myself. Because that's, I spent my whole life playing symphonies, the Greater Buffalo Youth Orchestra, kind of working on different competitions like NISMA and Upstate, those are statewide classical competitions for kids in high school at the time. So yeah, so I just figured, why not? Why am I farming this out to other producers when I could just kind of work on my own studio? Now, granted, I don't always have the time to do that, so I still do work with other very talented individuals to supplement what I don't have time in the studio, because I'm doing live performances, about 200 events throughout the year, and I'm doing interviews, and this is very important, and this is very rewarding for me, by the way, Kevin. So thanks again for having me.
Oh, absolutely.
Wear a lot of hats. I got a family, a lot of obligations, so I can't always produce symphonies from scratch. But that's what I've been doing lately.
I traveled when my kids were small. I was a traveling salesman, traveling chicken salesman, as a matter of fact. And it's hard being on the road to 200 dates a year. Do you do them mostly in New York, or are you all over the world these days? And how difficult is it to manage your family life?
So I do go across the country. I used to be in LA and Florida every month for like sometimes every week. Fly there, fly back. Sometimes I was fly there, fly back, and 2 days later. That started prior to when I got married. When I got married, I kind of slowed it down a bit, but I was still traveling. Now I'm traveling less. I am staying more regional, but I'm still going to Atlanta and Texas and Florida, Canada, all over the country, but a lot pickier with the events that my wife is permitting me to. I should take the credit. It's really me, but I make a dial. I allow for there to be a dialogue between myself and my wife. If you're going to maintain a family, this goes out to anybody who travels. If you have the opportunity to stay home, or even to occasionally skip an event, you're not required. If you're not required to travel, and it can kind of have a negative impact on your marriage, on your family, then you got to kind of factor that in. That's what I try to do the best. That's what I try to do. Last week I was in Atlanta, Georgia, rocking out on some Charlie Daniels. Love that music.
Do you? I would. I mean, you probably don't have your
fiddle
next to you, but the Devil went down to Georgia is like a huge. That was actually because I grew up with the Beatles, and in the 70s and stuff, and Charlie Daniels was the first violinist or fiddle player or whatever he calls himself. And sadly, he's passed now, I think.
Yeah.
But that was the first time that somebody had taken that instrument. The Beatles had used it a little bit, but and that was his big deal, and that was a great song.
Yeah, so I incorporated a couple of riffs from that particular song into what I was playing. That was fun. It's like a fundraising type of concert. But so to answer your question in a nutshell is, yes, I do travel, but I try to travel less, and I try to prioritize local events in the tri-state, Connecticut, New Jersey, that type of stuff for now, because I got a 3-year-old, I have an 11-year-old. And when the prices, I do go out to like Hawaii and that type of stuff. When the price is right, or if it's like, okay, I'll go out there and then I'll come back and really focus on the family for a week. So it's sort of a trade-off.
Right. So the big $1 million question is, how close are you to the 1 million mile mark?
I wish I could answer that. Probably far away.
Well, with all the frequent miles that you get, and that if in some people, my boss, it was his big deal. He wanted to get to 1 million miles.
Well, I can tell you, I used to use those frequent flyers all the time, and I still, I have a couple of United points that probably translate to some nice trips. JetBlue, Well, I don't know what I'm saving them up for. I have no idea. Probably saving them up for them to expire at this point.
Well, you know that you're traveling too much to a specific location when the rental car guy knows you by name.
Yes. Well, I was there at a point. I was always going to Enterprise when I was when I flew to Los Angeles. But LAX, that was my airport of choice. Yeah.
Yes, I liked John Wayne. It was smaller and
Maybe 4 or 5 times I've been there. About it.
uh,
It's a
so
nice feeling getting off that plane, John Wayne.
yeah. So I was just thinking about it. Have you ever thought about putting together a really cool show and doing Vegas for a period of time?
Oh, I thought you were going to say it in an airport on the tarmac. And I was just thinking that would be a great idea. How cool would that be?
That would be cool. And the way, of course, you're pretty light on your feet, so you could move around the airplanes and stuff. But have you ever thought about doing
That's a
that?
good point. Well, now the Vegas thing, I have done corporate events in Vegas. I've not done like concert residencies out there, which needs to happen. And actually, I had a booking agency reach out to me. You just reminded me. He's been reaching out to me for weeks now. We even spoke. So yeah, I guess it might happen sooner rather than later because I haven't really followed up on that just due to overwhelming schedule. But yeah, Vegas. I have if you check out my YouTube channel, I have a couple of music videos that I shot out there. Right next to what is it? Hell's Kitchen. Couple different spots.
Yeah.
Iconic spots there.
So what's your YouTube channel?
Venetian. Huh?
What's your YouTube channel?
This is the confusion. Well, if you just search Asher Laub, that's the easy ways to get to me. I have 3 channels. So I have the primary one, which is Asher Official Music. They don't make it very easy to get people there for some reason. Asher's Club is just like a lot of social media type shenanigans and lesser produced music videos. And Asher Land is my world, like more of my personal background, which people seem to be a little more organically interested in, which is I guess I'm surprised, but I guess it makes sense. People like to know people like to get down and dirty with, okay, what's the behind the scenes of this guy? So,
well, they're vested in you as a human being because they love you. You come across as being a really energetic, fun-loving guy that has a tremendous talent, and so people are interested in that and you and stuff like that. I would imagine.
Well, thank you. I guess it's that people like the uncurated me or the uncurated artist, whatever it is. Us artists, we try to curate as much as possible because we don't want to look like idiots most of the time, at least. But it's hard these days, when you're in the public eye and you're sort of expected to be as such. Otherwise, people they're no longer interested in supporting your music. They want to know everything about you. But I have a patrons group on Facebook, Asher Laub Patrons, and I welcome people to kind of hop in there in addition to Patreon to sort of check out a bunch of behind the scenes content, which is rarely curated.
And this is the part of the program where I'm going to give a public service announcement. The music business has changed, and disagree with me if you choose to, sir. The music business. I
wouldn't dare, Kevin.
The music business has changed a great deal in the last 20 years, and because of the internet and because of streaming, a lot of guys are doing some fantastic music, some great work. They're putting their lives on hold to get this done, and they're making squat. Because so if you go to Asher's information, however you find him, please buy his music. Don't stream it. He makes nothing from streaming. Buy his music, use it, take it home, treasure it. But because it's these places like Stitcher and Spotify and those guys, I'm hoping it'll change, but everybody that I talk to that is a musician is in the same boat. And if it isn't, if you're not doing 200 dates a year, it's hard for you to make a living. Would that be true?
Absolutely. That's really nice of you to say, Kevin. It is difficult as an artist to earn off of royalties unless you are Drake. or signed to a major label and at the top of the major label. The people that are the bottom signed to the major label with the 360 deals, they're making nothing. They're in the negative zone. The people in the 1 percentile of artists, Coldplay, Dua Lipa, they're making the money because they got 1 billion streams. The rest of us, it's a tough game because 40% of the iTunes and Spotify, it's 40% of Spotify, I believe, 40 to 50% is invested in and owned by the major label, the 3 major labels. So just keep that in mind. While we all kind of support it, we all stream and we all kind of pay to be members on Spotify. It's a tough game that they have to navigate. And I got that information from an insider. So the live performances, I would actually prefer to just earn a living off of connecting with my fans virtually and just producing music from the studio, from the comfort of my own home. And I find that to be more meaningful because I feel like I connect with fans and the messaging gets out better than in live performance where there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of literal and figurative noise around sort of the sponsors and the other the other kind of components of a live performance, corporate events, even concerts. So I just wanted to throw that out.
Well, and we appreciate you coming here and talking with us because you're gifted at what you do. You're leading a life. Did you ever stop and think about the life that you're actually leading that most people would love to and die for, but they don't have the ability to do that? Does it make you humble at all?
It does, but at the same time, I'm going to have to be honest and say that I don't have enough time to be that reflective because I'm running 120 miles an hour. It's like a rat race to an extent.
You're always on the treadmill of life, trying to make it work in many different ways, and you're producing. And now, are you going to produce other artists? Do you think?
Well, so this is a good segue to various collaborations that I've done. So I haven't exclusively produced any artists in terms of their albums, but it's definitely within it. Definitely something I'm interested in. I'd have to find the right artist, and I think it's one of those things where it sort of builds from one single to the next, as opposed to, hey, let's do a full album together. And if crap or whatever you want to use the word hits the fan, then okay, this project's done. I find that after the fact, we'll know if we will work. Me and the other artists will work together to produce a full album. So one song at a time. So for instance, Porter Singer, very talented singer, pardon the pun, out in Seattle. Beautiful voice. We collaborate on a single. We might do it again. Ariel Zeitlin in Israel, a bunch of others I've worked with. Insane Beats, more of a hip hop kind of release. We've worked together on these projects, and I could see us coming back together to produce another song. At the moment, Subtle Pulse is what was my last collaboration with Porter Singer. And I'm looking forward to working with a few other artists in the next couple of months too.
And you got to answer the guy who keeps calling you about the Vegas thing. By the way, I'm going to bring that up again for you.
Oh, that guy. Yeah. Speaking of collaboration, well, that's not an artist. That's more of a booking agent who books events, works with celebrities, that type of stuff. So that's something I need to follow up on because Kevin said so. I gotta hop on the phone right after this.
Yeah. Well, no, it's what is it? It's 6:35 your time.
Yeah, it is.
So
I'm actually. What time is it by you? It's like.
Have you had dinner
later, right? I had dinner. Yes. Was that your question?
Yeah. Well, it's 6:30, and I really appreciate you coming on this late in your day, and you probably have got other stuff that you're going to be doing tonight and in your studio or whatever. But it's really cool that you came and talked to us. Will you come and do a radio show and we can play more of your songs?
I would be honored, Kevin.
That would be really cool if we can, and we'll set it up so that we can do 2 or 3 or 4, and you can send me the MP3s, and then we can have, we'll just play them during the course of the hour. and put out your information. I think that would be great fun because your sound is so unique. Is there anybody out there? Is there anybody else out there like you?
I like to think that everybody's, independently unique. Everybody has a different unique tone, sound. I do have, there are other crossover violinists out there very talented. I've learned from the greats like Vanessa May, David Garrett, Jean-Luc Ponty, Joe Venuti. These are jazz violinists. So, but we don't have the same sound per se, but closer than I would have with Itzhak Perlman, for instance, when I'm playing electronic classical. But if we're playing like Schindler's List, I try to aim to sound more like Itzhak Perlman. So
gotcha. But how many of them can break dance and play at the same time?
I think there might be there's a couple of there's a handful, not a lot of us.
Well, you got to be in shape too, and you got to learn how to dance and all that kind of stuff. So is that part of your performance?
Yeah, it is. It's not part of every performance, to be honest, because it's not always the right opportunity to do that. Not everybody wants to see dancing. It's not, it kind of needs to be like a big concert where people are really hyped up. If it's like a more classical concert or more of a chill kind of relaxing performance, it's it doesn't really require the dancing or the choreography. So I think it kind of depends. And also, when you're playing arpeggios, it's not, you really don't want to be dancing a whole lot because you can play out of tune and you really have to concentrate on the fingers. It works a little bit better with electronic dance music, hip hop, that type of stuff. It's a genre specific thing.
What you just said a word that I do not know what it means. Arpeggio?
Oh, arpeggio. So, or basically, you can think of it as scales, but skipping notes. So you really have to think about the notes that you're playing, and even if you don't have to think about it, you need your position to be. You need to be standing in the same place, your feet planted on the floor. If you don't want your fingers to move a little slightly south or north of where they're supposed to be, that makes sense.
Well, it does, because in my world, when I was playing guitar, we had something called a fret. In the violin world, there are no frets, are there?
No, when I was a 3, 4, 5-year-old playing Suzuki, but the frets were colored stickers, we sort of fake frets, and then we took them off as the violin grew. But there's no frets on my electric or my acoustic violin.
How do you hit the right note?
Oh, you have to feel it. Sort of like singing, there aren't frets when you sing. You just sort of feel it.
Yeah, but you're feeling it with your fingers. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a lot of practice, really.
I don't know that I could practice that much. I don't know that it would ever work for me. But that's okay. But that's why you're as talented as you are. And by the way, we're talking to Asher Laub. Go to his website, which is asherlaub.com, and that's LAUB.com, and buy some music. He's got stuff there. I would love for you to buy some of his stuff, and it's on Amazon and everywhere else, I would assume. Yes,
it is. It's on all major platforms. There is some music that is not there, like by Lord of the Rings Symphony, which is pretty much a cover of Nori Brandyfoot and Galadriel, a couple other melodies from the Lord of the Rings Rings of Power. I just fell in love with that series, of that Amazon series. So songs like that, there are a number of songs that are on asherlaub.com/store that you can get. You can stream it for free, or you can purchase it, download it. But all my originals are on all major platforms. Amazon, iTunes, Deezer, you name it, Spotify.
Now, tell me about your association with ABBA, or the song.
Oh, okay. Okay, so that I guess it could be confusing because it's not the band ABBA. I've done covers of that, but the release is actually pronounced ABBA, and that's Hebrew for father. So that was that's a symphony that I based off of like an Israeli tune. Also, it was a song in demand. And that's also like, again, brass, strings, percussion, winds. That was sort of in the beginning beginning stages of the symphony releases that I added a little bit of electronic rhythm to. I wish I had the kind of the background story at my fingertips. Unfortunately, I don't, because that's like months ago. That's like 4 releases ago. I'm trying to, like, I've done Exodus most recently, which is a Passover medley. That was also a request. Haven't done an Easter medley. I should probably do that. Got a lot of people in the Midwest looking for that kind of stuff. And then a tribute to Israel. So there's like this theme of like Israeli music recently that I've been producing just by association with listeners.
What's it like putting together a symphony with all kinds of instruments? Do you have all the collaborations and the melodies and the harmonies and stuff? Is that all in your head? And if it is, how do you sleep at night?
So to be honest, some of it is in my head. I don't think I'm Mozart where the whole thing is in my head, or Beethoven. It's Beethoven. Everything he was mostly deaf or almost deaf. A lot of it's in my head. I do hear a lot of melodies, but I don't think I'd be able to function if I had full symphonies constantly running through my brain. I would be able to have normal conversations with people. But it definitely helps to have technology where, I have my DAW, which is my digital audio workstation, where I'm able to record multiple channels. So if something doesn't sound right, then I can kind of shift up the melody, and that's how I'm able to kind of produce the product that I like.
Awesome. I sadly have to wrap this one up, but I would love for you to tell us anything that you would like us to know before we go.
Sure. So, well, if you'd like to check out my music, you can connect with me on asherlaub.com, and that'll direct you to all the different channels. If you want to see all of my shenanigans, you can check me out on Instagram and Facebook, TikTok, Asherlaub, ASHERLAUB. And hope to connect with you guys. You can send me a DM, post a comment, and then I'll send the love back. And my original music, like I mentioned, is on all major platforms: Spotify, iTunes, Deezer, et cetera, et cetera.
Thank you very much, Asher, for being here. I really have enjoyed our conversation.
Oh, I had a great time, Kevin. Thank you.
I hope so. I hope you enjoyed our conversation as much as I did. It was fun.
I absolutely did.
Oh,
I had a blast, Kevin. Thank you.
If you can wait right there, I'll be right back.
Uh-huh.
Hey, thanks for enjoying this episode all the way to the end. Please give us a like and subscribe to this channel. This has been a production of PositiveTalkRadio.net. Please visit our website, oddly named PositiveTalkRadio.net, for more details about us and our mission, which is to provide great positive programming designed to inspire us all. I'm Kevin McDonald, and I'm proud of these shows, and I truly hope that you'll like them and share them with friends and family. So on behalf of our entire team, remember, be kind